Hello, good morning, my product marketing besties. I feel compelled to say that because my team and I, between yesterday and today, we feel like we've been commiserating with you, we've been nodding, we've been laughing because you get a lot of our problems. And we've been smiling because we feel validated by you, and you're giving us all these different tips and tricks that we can take back. So I've never been in a situation where there's so many people that understand our challenges and get us. You guys are a whole room full of my work besties. And so in true bestie fashion, I wanted to give you guys something that can help your companies and also possibly your career. And it's my pricing and packaging pricing roadmap to help grow revenue within your company. It's something I've been working on for many different years. It keeps changing. I keep making it better. So would love advice after this if there's any tidbits you want to give. So growing up, my favorite show was The Price is Right. I loved watching it, guessing the prices, the packages. I watched all of the shows. It got to a point where I started recognizing the products and I started remembering all the pricing. So the good and the bad was, I felt like if I ever got on that show, I would be able to take down that showcase showdown, win the car for my parents, get the refrigerator, get that vacation. I think I was really young at the point, so I couldn't drive, but I really felt confident I could win. The downside is I just stopped watching it because it wasn't exciting anymore. I already knew all the prices. But I bring up this show because it's been around for over 60 years. It's translated in different languages all across the world. It's been rated one of the top 5 game shows in the US. And it just shows how exciting pricing is. People get jazzed up about it. They've gamified it. And pricing is way more exciting than any of you guys realize. Later on in life, I was fascinated by pricing when I was at the Cornell Hotel School. We were learning how to price airlines, hotel rooms, and it wasn't until we got to menus. And there was a whole strategy and psychology about how you price your menu, where you put the items, what numbers you use. And after that, every time I go to a restaurant and I see a menu, I've never looked at it the same way anymore. Soon after that, I worked in New York for about 10 years in finance, consulting, private equity, hedge fund, pricing, all kinds of things that we own, from debt instruments, equity instruments, real estate, you name it. And then I made my transition to tech when I moved back to the Bay Area. And I started doing product marketing. I wasn't doing anything in pricing yet. It was at Responsys. I was doing product marketing, and the product marketer that owned pricing at the time left. And I took a look at our pricing, and I raised my hand, and I said, I'll take that over. I was like, I think I can make this better. And I've never looked back. Pricing has always been a component of my job. Through the Oracle acquisition of Responsys, I led the M&A of pricing. I then got pulled on to all of the Oracle Marketing Cloud acquisitions, integrating pricing, doing the strategy, eventually got involved with all the SaaS products, all the heads of platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service. We would sit there and talk and debate different pricing strategies. Currently, I'm at Hired right now, leading product marketing, sales enablement, and pricing is a component of my job. And we recently switched, because we're a two-sided marketplace, helping people find jobs they love. We switched from being a transaction platform to subscription last year. We just launched that, and it's really exciting. And so please raise your hands here if you own pricing within your organizations. Oh, and then keep your hands up. And then how many people collaborate with maybe someone in your pricing team? Okay. Everyone's hands should actually be up because we all work on pricing to some degree. And it's really an opportunity for product marketers to get involved in pricing. And I want to arm you with some of the current pricing fundamentals so you can start adding value to your current organization and also to your career. But first, let's define pricing. Right? What is pricing? Pricing is creating, communicating, and capturing value. As product marketers, we're already doing this for our products. And so you're already making these decisions, and now you can add pricing into the mix as well. Now, the difference between pricing and subscriptions is that in the subscription business, it's all about the predictable, recurring payments that those customers give you. And that's a really important concept, that predictable, recurring revenue. This is why subscriptions are very important. And this is why SaaS companies who get this right report that on January 1st, 70% of their revenues are already booked. So think about that. More than half of your revenue is already known. I mean, that's exciting. That's predictable. and it's recurring, and you keep getting that all the time. And so this is why investors love subscription businesses. This is why companies are switching to subscription. This is why we did that at Hire. This is why Twilio did that. This is why I know a lot of you are thinking about that as well. And Wall Street is rewarding this. We see it in the multiples that these companies are getting when they're going public, from Zoom, Twilio, Slack. Slack growth is a thing that everybody wants now. And so to understand this further, we first need to understand what areas does pricing and packaging impact. And so let's run through this at a very high level. Pricing and packaging impacts revenue. So this is your sales and your customer success groups. They're bringing in all that revenue. Finance, they're caring about margins and net dollar retention, all the different ratios. We want to make sure you're profitable. Sales ops, they're probably doing deal desk. What are the different discounts that you're doing, promotions that you're running? Product, you're building product and you're pricing it. You want to make sure you're getting value for that. Professional services, what additional services are you offering? That's usually T&M. How do you price and package that? The tools, how do you deploy pricing? Is there a pricing calculator, ROI calculator? How do you build a quote? Enablement, how do you train sales to talk about pricing so that they understand how they negotiate it? Customers, they have to understand pricing or they won't buy it. A confused buyer won't buy. Buyers don't want to make mistakes. Competitive intelligence, what are your competitors doing? You're not copying their pricing, but it's going to inform your pricing. Geographies, you have to think about foreign exchange rates. How do different companies and countries think about value? How do they want to buy your product? How do they use it? Legal, you want to make sure if there's third-party hard costs or GDPR, HIPAA, if you're dealing with government, with healthcare, you want to make sure that legally you're covered when it comes to your pricing. Your contracts, you want to make sure the language in your contracts are covered as well. Compensation. If comp isn't aligned with pricing, I've had reps come to my desk and say, I'm not selling that product that you just rolled pricing out for. I don't get commission for it. The comp team was then on my speed dial after that. RevRec, you make sure, especially for the public companies, RevRec is very important. This is not a gray area. It's not ratable. If the RevRec rules are changing for SaaS, you're not aligned to that. You can't recognize your revenue. That has huge impacts for public companies. Partners, how do you extend your product? How do you expand your pricing and packaging? But the most important one here is senior executives. They all care about this. I've never met a senior executive that doesn't care. In my capacity, I've worked directly with CEOs, CTOs, senior executives. At Oracle, Safra Katz and Thomas Curran, when he was there, had to approve every single pricing decision I made. One time, Safra, we didn't realize was on vacation, didn't approve a pricing decision. The product was ready to go. We had to hold back launch because I couldn't get pricing out and live. And so I had to keep track of her vacation schedules after that. We've worked on partnerships where we're trying to extend the product and white label a SKU, co-sell it, upsell it. Every time we get into pricing, the founders, the co-founders are all jumping on the phone and they want to ask pricing on how they can make their pricing better for all of our partners. And so when you have this tool in your toolbox, you are up-leveling not only your career, but the revenues for your company. And we're not talking skip levels here. We're talking leapfrogging many different levels. And instead of being invited to the table, you get invited to your senior executive's office to sit on that couch and start strategizing around pricing and packaging. So I know in that product marketing, the state of product marketing report earlier, people wanted to know, how do you increase your influence and take that next level? Well, this can do that for your career. So ideally, a strategic and cross-functional person should own pricing. I know some bigger companies, you have pricing groups, and so you as a product marketer should work with them, regardless of the size of company. Or you should just raise your hand and own pricing. Because ideally, it's the product marketer. We're already strategic, we're already cross-functional, we ready teams for a product launch, we know our customers, we know the market, we know our users. And so we should understand pricing. In Francis's session yesterday, there was a question on who owns pricing. If your company doesn't know, then you should raise your hand and say, I already know all the elements that make great pricing, I want to own it. And so let's discuss how. Product marketers own go-to-market, which we talked about a lot today. And go-to-market for pricing, maybe it's a component of it, but that's really to organize product and sales. Product management, though, they have a product roadmap, and this is to coordinate everyone in the company. And so given pricing touches every single department in the company that I showed earlier, I think we need to have a pricing roadmap. And when someone doesn't have their eye on this, pricing becomes an afterthought. And you're making unintentional decisions, or maybe has many cooks in the kitchen with too many opinions. Then that's when you start losing deals, net dollar retention is down, customers start churning, they're confused, you're not profitable. But when done right, you can win deals, it can become a differentiator, and you can help companies grow from 1 million to 100 million or even the billions. So in order to build a pricing roadmap, I need to share 2 basic pricing concepts with you. These are very important to master and understand so you can position yourself to ultimately drive the pricing roadmap. These will be the building blocks. First one is subscription has 3 key revenue buckets. And this is the meat of the pricing concepts. Very different than traditional businesses, which cared about winning customers. So Microsoft would sell that CD for PowerPoint and Word. We would download it and pay a big chunk of money. But in the subscription business, you're paying little chunks of money on a monthly basis, whatever that period is, to use something. And so it's a win-win here because for the customers, I don't have to outlay as much money, and it's a low barrier to entry. If I don't like it, I'll just stop paying. For the companies, it's easy because you can really win a lot of customers, right? We see a lot of free models, and so it's win-win. Now, keep. This is not something traditional businesses cared about. We care about in SaaS because we want to keep our customers. They can keep paying month after month. We really care about how they use it and if they're getting value. And this is why the customer success departments were born. They're there to make sure they keep using it. They keep paying us month after month, year after year. No one wants churn. Usage is really important of our tools. Before, Microsoft would sell me my CD and probably didn't care if I used it. And the last bucket is growing our customers. Now, this is where you're really in the money. People don't focus on this enough. And this is where you do upsell. This is where you do cross-sell. How do you expand on what your customer is doing so they can do more and pay more money with you to really grow your LTV? When you focus on this, this is where your revenues can skyrocket. And that's where growth comes from. It's in the expansion bucket. Now, an example here is Gmail. I got a free Gmail address, and I still use it. They've really kept me as a customer for 15 years now. They keep adding additional features. They've added calendars, Google Sheets. They really kept me as a customer. But where they really got me is how I grow with them. I now use my Chromecast. I have my Nest security cam. I've got my Nest thermostat. I went from 1 security cam to 4 as, so I can keep track of all my kids. They've really grown with me, and now I'm just throwing my money at them. If I look at work, we're a Google shop, we're giving them money. This is where Google's really in the money and why their stock price is doing so well. So every marketing tactic already focuses on one of these buckets, and you consider these. Pricing does as well. It's no different than what you're doing already. So the term you might have heard, what consultants call this, is acquisition, retention, and expansion. The easy way I like to remember is win, keep, and grow your customers. So these are all the same things when you hear them. So this is the beginnings of a basic yet important framework for your pricing roadmap. The last set of pricing concepts I want to cover is the continual development of the 4 pricing levers. Now this is where the real power comes into play. Price points. So this is, what do you charge? What's the discount? Promotions. Are you doing pricing segmentation? Is it value-based pricing? These are all things that you can answer. Market segments. What are the shared problems? This is what Pragmatic Institute calls it, and I really like it. If you've got a lot of the same problems and you've got the same problems, you guys are different segments. What product marketers are used to doing are calling it by industry, geography, title or role, size of company. It's basically clustering problems. Pricing metrics. This is, what do you charge for? What is your customer value? Are you B2B? Are you B2C? Talk to your customers. If they value a metric, that's your pricing metric, because that's what they care about. It's probably what they're thinking about when they think about ROI too. Some examples are users, data, email, message, API calls, interactions. There are so many different pricing metrics. There's not a finite number here. And then packaging. So you've heard of good, better, best. That's very common, and there's science behind why good, better, best works really well. That's another conversation. Options, where do you put new features? How do you cross-sell? How do you upsell? So all of these are very important, and they're very powerful. Picking your price point is like the Price is Right. People gamify it. You get your price point. People are buying it. It's working. You get that rush. It's so exciting. And you want to see that revenue come in month after month. But these 3, this is These three levers are more categorized as value levers. Each of these is a very powerful tool. You have to have every single one of them. And if you're not making a conscious decision, you've actually made an unconscious decision on how you're doing these, and so you're doing it already by default. So you have to use them, but you have to be extremely careful when you use them. As Cersei Lannister would say, when you play the game of levers, your revenue wins or dies. There is no middle ground. So you have to pull these really wisely. These levers are powerful strategies. And price points, while it's akin to The Price is Right, these levers, I compare it more to Game of Thrones, one of my other favorite shows. And those who know how to control these value levers control the 7 kingdoms, and they earn their seat in the Iron Throne. So these affect many different departments, like I talked about earlier, and they require internal strategy, coordination. They're huge projects within your company, and as you saw, they have a lot of reach that goes beyond that wall in the north, into the northernmost areas of Westeros where the White Knights live. And they're always present. So when you go back to work tomorrow and you're sitting at your desk, I would actually think of all the different ideas that you have, think of your to-do list, and try to go and categorize it into these different areas. Because as we know, when you're creating, communicating, or capturing value, you're already making these decisions. And if you're not sitting down and thinking about what's actually going to happen when winter comes, then you've made the decision anyway. And it's an unintentional decision. And we all know that in the Game of Thrones, when people aren't thinking a couple of steps ahead, we remember the Red Wedding, where House Frey took revenge on House Stark. That was really tragic. We want to make sure that we're on top of all of this. So if you don't watch Game of Thrones, can you guys raise your hands? Oh, there are a lot of you that don't. Okay, well, I want to put this in context. If you don't watch Game of Thrones, you should definitely watch it. But I would, and then come back and look at my presentation, but I would skip the last episode of the last season because you're better off left hanging, having exciting what-if scenarios go through your head for the rest of your life than for the rest of us, because we can't unsee what we saw. So for the people that didn't see Game of Thrones, the takeaway here is that in Game of Thrones, it's all about power, having the right strategy, knowing when to pull it, when to play it. And with that, you can gain a lot of power, and the power here is revenue within our companies. And each one is really complicated, but the more you exercise your brain and the more you think about it, the easier it becomes, the better you are at this to help grow revenue at your companies, grow your growth rates, grow your profits, and even grow your career. All right, so how do we take all of this and execute on it? Your pricing roadmap organizes these pricing concepts. This is a standard swim lane. I use it for our go-to-market. We can use it in a pricing roadmap. So you've got your revenue buckets, which is win, keep, and grow, acquisition, retention, and expansion. So you can always think about it. Then you layer on your pricing levers. And the pricing levers apply to each of those buckets. And then you can put in dates. I would say initially don't put in any dates into your pricing roadmap. Keep that blank. Just start putting in details. As you hear different ideas at work, as you're talking to somebody else, look at your to-do list, what you're already doing for product marketing, start putting them in here and see where it shakes out. The reason why I have it like this is you usually start with win and acquisition for smaller companies. You need customers first. It goes in this order. Then you start retaining and keeping them, and then you want to grow them. I've only got one there because people tend to forget about grow. You're not doing everything all at once over time, but you kind of figure out what your cadence is for your company. This is important because when I was at Responses in Oracle for our mobile strategy, I would kind of just riff on different ideas of pricing and packaging strategies. And there was a time where Safra looked at the margins for one of our products, and she did not like the margins. It wasn't profitable enough. I didn't know this was happening. Then I went to Thomas Kurian. There were emails. Anyways, that email eventually ended up in my inbox, and I looked at it, and it was, we're going to get rid of this product. It's not making enough money for Oracle. And I looked at that. And my product marketing side said, we're not getting rid of this product. This is part of our core messaging. It's part of our positioning. It's our differentiator when it comes to the marketplace. This is what our customers want. Our users want it. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to go to competitors. Red flags were going up all over the place. And I was thinking about it, and I remembered, I'm like, wait, I had some ideas. I remember I was concerned about profitability for this one product line. A year ago, I was like in Vegas talking to one of our mobile specialists, and I pulled up those notes, and I was like, okay, I have an idea here. I remember the senior executives were in a meeting talking about this very topic. I fired off an email. I'm like, I got some ideas. We need to meet. So he like runs out of his meeting. I run down there. I'm like doing some numbers in my head, and like within 15 minutes, I'm talking to a senior executive, telling him why, putting on my product marketing hat. This is why we can't get rid of it, but here are some ideas. And I'm going to need to get on the product roadmap. I need to work with engineers, blah, 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 blah. He approved it. It took us a year to get it together. I worked with product managers. I worked with engineering. We got that project off. And it went from something that Saffron wanted to get rid of because she didn't like the margins to something becoming profitable. It became a differentiator. The product manager and the engineers I worked with filed for a couple of patents. And it just became, and it hit the news press. And now I'm not at Oracle anymore, but I look back and I see, and I smile. I'm like, you know what? As a product marketer, I got involved. I influenced the roadmap. I influenced profitability because we already have the skill sets as product marketers on how to position and when to know to keep a product or get rid of it. But now you layer in pricing and packaging and knowing how it hits the bottom line and revenues, and you become a very powerful product marketer. And so this is what I use to get cross-collaboration, how I crowdsource ideas. I mean, a lot of my ideas don't just come from me. I talk to different people. I talk to my coworkers. I talk to specialists. And when you know pricing and packaging fundamentals, it just sparks different ideas. And the hardest problems that you have are an opportunity for you because in the mobile space, it's very complex. And because of that, I knew our competitors probably couldn't figure this out. And when we figure it out, we became a differentiator. I know Joel from Looker, I don't know if he's here, he's got a really complex pricing problem that he's trying to figure out. That is an opportunity to get extra creative, be better than your competitors, and then really be a differentiator of your company. Those are the projects that I find really exciting. So then you take this, and let's say they want to sign off on your idea. Create a detailed plan to get sign off because it's so cross-functional. You do have to go to different executives, different partners, and you can do different versions of this. I really tweaked this over the years. This is an example of focusing on acquisition or winning customers. I took out a lot of our details, and I just put in some generic questions in here so you can use it as a framework. I've used this to focus on retention. I've used it to focus on growth. But you lay everything out. And you put a timeline to it to say, what do we want to do? So you can start coordinating all the different functions within your company. And you can take action. Do it by month. This can be, by quarter, by year. Pick whatever time frame that you want. Okay, so let's revisit this one more time because I do have time. So I'm going to share a bonus pricing concept with you as expansion. I talked a lot about people always overlook this, but when you get expansion right, those are the companies that are on the path to IPO. The IPO, get acquired, that have these huge valuations. Like this is where the money starts falling into the bucket. And companies that are in hypergrowth phase then go to 100 million, a billion. This is what a lot of people are calling monetization. That's a very popular term right now. This is what we're talking about. Oh, I think my clicker. Here we go. And so when we're growing customer revenue, there were really 4 different areas. One is to raise prices. So Apple raised prices nearly across all their product lines last year. Some of the best products, the prices were raised by 20%. Cross-selling. So I keep upgrading my new phone as new versions come up. So I'm getting cross-sold. I keep upgrading to the iPhone, the iPad. I've got my iWatch on. I've got every iProduct they put out. Every time they put something out, I'm buying it. And so I'm getting cross-sold here. Upselling. Upselling is when I keep upgrading my phone. They keep putting out new versions. And so I don't want my phone starts getting old. I want the new one. So we got to upgrade our customers. They keep spending money with us. Increasing usage. So on my phone, because I love taking so many photos and videos of my kids, I keep upgrading my storage plans with my Apple phone as well. And so these are really the only 4 ways, and I've debated this with many people, and if anyone can think of a 5th way, please hunt me down. Let's talk about it, because there are many times I thought I had a 5th way, and then I realized I didn't. These are really the 4 only ways that you can grow customer revenue. So get as creative as you want, but it's probably going to fall into one of these 4 buckets. And what does this mean? Is this actually increases LTV. And LTV is so important because it's about lifetime value. It represents the total revenues your customers will spend with you in their entire lifetime. I am 15 years strong with Gmail. If you look at Google and Apple, I've just been with them for so long. LTV is a very important SaaS metric. A high LTV drives how much money you can spend to acquire new customers. You don't want the cost of acquiring your company to ever be more than your LTV. And understanding pricing increases the LTV not only for your company revenues, for your growth rates, but also for your career. So it's time to go out there and make sure your pricing is right. Thanks. So we've got 5 minutes for questions.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm currently actually working on a good, better, best package of just repackaging. Right now, I work for a company that has 1 product, okay, but 4 professional services. Our software margin is quite high at 80%, and our churn is quite low at only 2%. Our professional services margin is half that at 40%, but churn is double at 4%. So our CFO, who I love, hates professional services. If it was up to him, he would just get rid of all of them. How do you kind of, as I'm looking at our good, better, best packages, because we only sell one software product and 4 professional services, our good, better, best is literally adding on professional services up until you have all 4, so to speak. How do you win over your CFO if it were up to him, he would just completely get rid of all of them?
Your CFO sounds like Safra. Whenever it comes to professional services, by definition, it's based on time and materials, individuals. So it's never going to have huge margins compared to products. That's why products are scalable. You have huge margins on those. Professional services, you never will. However, it becomes really important, and this is something we're thinking about at Hired as well, of how do you increase your revenue? So what kind of stage company are you? Okay, so you guys are pretty small. So in smaller companies, professional services works nicely because you can actually bring in more revenue. You can make your product stickier. You can go to market with something faster because your product team doesn't have to build it. And so a lot of times I've seen, we'll offer this service and we'll test the market. Oh, it's working, this service is great. Great, let's productize that service now. We've de-risked it. We know it works. So that's one way to approach professional services is before you get your entire product team building something, let's test it out by a service and let's do it manually. And so that's how I would approach it with your CFO. There's so many other ways we can talk about it, but definitely find me offline and we can dig into that topic a little bit more. Yeah.
Hi, great presentation.
Thanks.
Can you talk a little bit more about bundle pricing and packaging? For instance, company X acquires company Y, and they are trying to create bundle pricing and packaging.
Yes. So acquisition is fun. Oracle does a lot of that. They're on a shopping spree. A lot of big companies tend to go on shopping sprees. And when that happens, you're bringing in all these new products that have their own pricing, their own packaging. A lot of the easiest way to do is you want to make it simple for your customer. When you bring in all these different projects, SKUs, let's start with that. You don't put the burden on the customer to figure that out. You as a company have to figure it out. So the good thing about acquiring a company is you're sitting on a bunch of data. You know who the customers are, you know what their usage is, you know what the pricing is. And the first thing I do is I always look at all of that data and I start trying to make sense of it. And you almost get to see, what's the willingness that customer is willing to pay, what discounts do they have. And then based on that data, I do some analysis where I start segmenting them and I start bucketing it to see how much money are they spending with us. And then comes the exercise of, if I've got an existing product and the acquired product, how do I bring that together? Is there a way I can collapse that pricing metric and make it very simple to understand? You've got to talk to the users. If it's an acquisition that's very aligned with your existing company, maybe you can find that same pricing metric. If it's very different, then that's where you start bundling. Here are 2 different packages, 2 different types of pricing metrics, but you have one price point. Because the idea is a lot of customers, they have a budget. I set my budget a year in advance. I'm sure a lot of us are going through budgeting right now. I already know the budget that I'm going to spend on my tools. So if I'm going to buy something, don't make it complex with all these different price points, different SKUs. Don't confuse me. I've got a budget. I roughly know what I want to spend. Make it really simple. And so when you start thinking about that, you can take the complexity out of pricing. But the easier the pricing it is, the harder the work is on our end to make it very simple. And a lot of questions and thoughts. And use this framework to make sure you're going through each of those thoughts. But feel free to find me because there's a lot more strategies around that as well. Another question? Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this is probably a really long answer. This is probably going to be a really long answer, and you don't have much time. But if, say, your pricing is out, it's in the world, like people know what your product costs, but you want to experiment with elasticity, especially in slower quarters or in markets where your price just isn't really getting the conversion you wanted. What are your thoughts on bringing like discounting, coupon codes, things like that into your strategy?
Are you a B2C product?
Yeah, B2C.
Okay.
Well, direct to consumer for businesses, so B2C style.
Yeah, so coupons and discounts, those are very powerful levers as well. And those actually fall, into some of the details of these. So it is something that you can use. Because if you think about coupons, right? If I get a coupon from IKEA, $25 off my next purchase, if I'm willing to clip that coupon and take that time, I am paying something different for that product than maybe you are. You went to IKEA and paid full price. And so we're buying the same thing, we're paying different prices. I just told that company that I am price sensitive and I'm willing to clip that coupon. So it's a way to capture more of your market. Because otherwise, maybe I wouldn't have gone to IKEA and purchased. But since I got that coupon, I now am shopping there in addition to you. So it's a really great way to go and get uncaptured customers that normally wouldn't have come to you. And so there's different ways of deploying coupons as well and doing loyalty programs. That's why there are loyalty programs, but we can talk more about that offline. I am up at time, but I don't know. Okay. One more question. Yeah. Oh, you look really excited. Okay. Oh, sorry. I don't think he's okay.
Mine's just a follow-up to her.
Okay.
Yeah, what's your take on the depreciation of brand and product when using coupons?
Yeah, so coupons and B2B, okay, so there's a lot of strategy around pricing as well, where once you drop price, it is hard to bring pricing up. So that is one fundamental thing to understand, that if you drop price, you have to be very careful. So there's a lot of strategies of, we'll set pricing a little bit higher because we know we're going to discount it anyway. And there's that psychology of everybody wants to get a deal, right? Nobody wants to pay full price. They want to make sure that if I'm a B2B buyer of products, I can go to my CFO and say, I negotiated a great price. I got a 10% discount. This is great. Please approve this. In the B2C world, people do like coupons, but there are some people that don't ever care to get a coupon or a discount because time is important. Now that I have 3 kids, I don't collect any coupons. I just don't have time. But in my single days, every coupon that came, give me that discount code. So there's different reasons around this and different drivers and psychology about how people react to these things. But making sure that you as a company can capture as much of uncaptured revenue and uncaptured customers out there.
Do you think that takes away from a premium brand?
Definitely find me and look for me. Yeah. Okay. All right, I think we're up at time. Thank you. I'll be around. You can find me on LinkedIn. I didn't put my contact information out here, but I love talking about pricing and packaging. So find me, connect with me, and we can answer your questions offline. Thanks.
Awesome.